Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. It's a mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us on Millions and as a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Tonight we are doing a middle of the season progress report, if you will. If we come up with a better name for it during the episode, we'll say it and we'll change the name of the episode because that's how we do things.
Midterms.
But we are talking about where we think the season will go from here in terms of conference championship games, 12-team playoff, and I did doing a small, tiny little breakdown of the rest of the teams on Georgia's schedule and how they're looking as of this week. But before we get to all that, how you been? What are you drinking?
I've been good. Just keeping busy and stuff. Grad school kind of finishing up the last month or so here, so kind of the home stretch of that. All the kids after school activities again. Busy, not getting home until 6:30 every day. But I'm just drinking water, and I'm gonna get after it. This weekend. Tomorrow night, where my wife and I are going to see Dave Chappelle at the Civic Center. So we're fucking stoked.
Oh, dude, I looked into tickets for that like yesterday because I have another friend who's going tomorrow, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much tickets are currently going for tomorrow night's show?
Are you talking about secondhand or like straight from Ticketmaster?
Secondhand. Yeah, they're sold out.
Are they now? Okay, because I couldn't get the cheap tickets. I had to go like mid-tier, which fun.
Secondhand tickets right now after fees are about $250 a person.
You said after fees?
After fees.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, for us, the two tickets that we got with Ticketmaster fees, it came to like $400. But we were like not the upper deck. We were like kind of sort of center, but like further back. I don't know. Anybody familiar with the Johnny Mercer Theater? It's orchestra left or whatever they call it. But yeah.
When we went to Burt and when we went to Theo Vaughn, we got tickets off of VetTix, and my back was against the back wall in the balcony, and it's so small, it didn't really matter.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't want to pay that much for it, but I was like, I got to it like 2 hours after the ticket window opened, and all the cheap seats in the back were taken already. And when I say cheap seats, it's like relatively cheap. They were like $90 each or whatever. It's still a lot. Like I would never pay that much for something normally, but greatest comedian of all time. So
and he's doing he did 3 days in Savannah. That doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. So, dude, I'm fucking stoked. It's our Jen's birthday gift / anniversary for us. We're gonna have a good time taking a personal day Friday to recover from that. But how about you?
Doing all right. I am currently drinking Smoke Wagon Malted Rye. Had it for a while. I think I've drank it on the show before. I honestly don't. I've had it since 2022.
Good year.
Yes. But yeah, no, I'm mainly drinking because I had a meeting with the IRS today because they're fucking stupid and terrible and need to be abolished. But I'm not gonna get into all that. I will say, as of right this moment, while we are recording, Kennesaw State's beating Liberty, and let's go Owls, hoot hoot, whatever they say. I don't really know.
Hootie who?
Hootie who?
I think that's what it is. That's the one Kennesaw grad I know. He goes hootie who.
Okay, hootie who.
Liberty just converted a 4th and inches deep in their own territory, so we'll see how it goes.
Honestly, with the way Kennesaw State's played this season, I'm just happy to see they got Liberty to a 4th and inches. Just being honest,
Yeah. It's a win. They won the first quarter. They might win the first half.
They might. They have 5 minutes to go.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go ahead and get into these conference championship game predictions. I'm just gonna be honest. I probably did too much.
Sorry.
Oh, you're ahead of me. Hell yeah.
What a fucking play. Hootie fucking who.
Hootie who. Um, we just saw the big interception, by the way, guys. Um, Probably did too much on these conference championship breakdowns. It's just what I do. I can't help myself. Um, but before the season, I said Clemson was stacked and would end up being one of the teams in the ACC title game, and that looks pretty good as of right now. They're not really getting close to anybody with the exception of Virginia since that Georgia game. Um, but the other team is Miami as of right now. The thing about Miami is they don't look good. They haven't put together a complete game against any core four opponent since week one against Florida. The Hurricanes have had close games against Virginia Tech, Cal, and Louisville with an average margin of victory of 4 points and allowing an average of 39 points in their conference games. Um, the thing is, they don't look like they have a defense that can regularly stop mid to good offenses. Really, the issue there. Um, and with the rest of their schedule consisting of Florida State at home, Duke at home, at Georgia Tech, Wake at home, and ending the season in the Dome at Syracuse. The other possible teams competing for the second spot in the ACC are SMU, shocker of the year here, and Pitt, who are both undefeated in conference play. These two teams solve the problem of a possible tie with playing each other on November 2nd. The rest of SMU's games are at Duke, home against Pitt, Boston College at home, at UVA, and in the season with Cal at home. Pitt is at home against Syracuse, at SMU, UVA at home, Clemson at home, at Louisville, and in the season at Boston College. With knowing these schedules, which of these teams do you think faces Clemson in Charlotte?
Yeah, I think everyone's resigning the fact that Clemson's making the ACC championships. So that's a given. That win against Clemson looks better and better by the week for Georgia, to say the least. But as much as it pains me to say, I think I'm gonna go with Miami here. And it's just Cam Ward. Like you talked about, the last 3-4 weeks have not been like super impressive for the Canes, but it's just really it's how little I think of the rest of the ACC that kind of plays into that. Although I am super interested to see if SMU can do it. I don't like Pitt. Eat shit Pitt. I think that we're forever. But it would be funny if SMU made it. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Miami facing Clemson, but then Clemson just humbling them in Charlotte.
Yeah, I think SMU and Miami are really the two only options. And I say that just because Pitt does have SMU, Virginia, who has a great offense now all of a sudden. Clemson, and they just have the tougher schedule than SMU. But with the offense SMU has, or with the offense Pitt has, can they beat SMU? I think yes. So I think both those teams are going to be one loss. I think Miami, just like you said, is going to make it to Charlotte, and then Dabo's just going to bring the hand of God down and smack them back down to South Beach.
It's funny with SMU. The only SMU game I watched this year was their first game. I think it was week 0. I think it was week 0. Yeah, it was week 0 against Nevada.
They looked awful.
Awful. And then Georgia Southern beat that team because everything comes back to Statesboro. But if we're not talking about Georgia, but yeah, they weren't super impressive in that. I mean, they did come roaring back in the second half, but I didn't really watch a ton of that. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if SMU, not getting a dime from the ACC, wins the ACC championship or at least gets to Charlotte. So, but no, Miami and Clemson should be the favorites there.
It's too much orange for one game.
It's disgusting. Yeah.
Man, going to America's Conference, the Big 12, it's always wild, but this year is no different. It's not. The teams that I had playing in the Big 12 title game have both just been kicked in the nuts. Arizona doesn't look good against any team not named Utah, and Utah lost Cam Rising for the rest of the year again.
May come back for an 8th year. Whoa!
I was about to say he technically could get a medical red shirt, and if I'm being honest, 2025 Cam Rising playing, I'm not mad.
No, I mean, we get 2 more games out of Cam Rising? Let's fucking go.
Yeah, maybe three. Maybe
Yeah.
three.
I gave the kiss of death to fucking Arizona, though. That was
eh,
my bad. They were my bandwagon team right before we started the season, I think. So my
yeah,
bad. My bad, Cats.
yeah, and with the schedule the way it has been for on our end of things, we haven't really been able to talk about bandwagon teams a whole lot. But mine hasn't been very good either.
Yeah.
Um, Played in a lot of close losses, which sucks. But the other team that you had playing in the Big 12 title game, Oklahoma State. The only time they've had an offense this year is when they resorted to being a triple option team with Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon. And Ollie
Mm.
Gordon got hurt in their last game, came back, and then got hurt again. So we have no idea what his status is.
Yeah.
Current leaders in the Big 12 are BYU, who is undefeated, and Iowa State, who's also undefeated. Kansas State, Mike's Texas Tech Red Raiders, Cincinnati, and Colorado all have one conference loss. BYU's toughest remaining game is Utah. That's pretty much it.
Is that in Provo or is that in Salt Lake? Do you know?
Oh, I didn't write it down. I can look it up real quick. But
I
they
should
do
I should look it
have.
up.
Oh damn, my phone's about to die. I'm not gonna be able to watch this game anymore. Um, it's at Utah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that might be a tough one, but BYU does have pretty good defense. They get a lot of turnovers.
Mhm.
Iowa State has Texas Tech on November 2nd, Cincinnati and Kansas State to finish the season. Kansas State has Cincinnati and Iowa State. Texas Tech has Iowa State, Colorado, and my West Virginia Mountaineers. Cincinnati has Colorado, Iowa State, and Kansas State. And Colorado has Cincinnati and Texas Tech. So none of these teams have an easy path the rest of the way. The Big 12 does this to themselves. What seems like every year, it's the reason they were left out of the playoff more often than any other conference other than the Big Pac-12.
Mhm.
They do this. They do this all the time. As of right this second, I would venture to say it's going to be BYU and Kansas State. And I
Okay.
say that because Iowa State has given up a lot of points to some teams that they shouldn't have given up that many points to. Granted, they were all in wins. But I had Iowa State's quarterback as my fantasy quarterback last week, who had 12 points going into the last 5 minutes of the game, where he got 26. So they had to have an insane comeback to stay undefeated, which means they have it in them. But I honestly just trust Kansas State's defense a little bit more.
Yeah.
And as the season goes, Avery Johnson's going to get better. He hasn't had any game like he had that BYU game. So I've got those two teams playing in the title game.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I was kind of leaning toward that way for a little bit, but in an effort to be a little bit different, I'm gonna talk through this real quick. I do like Iowa State. Matt Campbell has put his name back out there in job searches after it kind of gone away the last couple of years from just being subpar. I mean, he'll do this just like Iowa. They'll be kind of asked for a little bit and then get really good again for 1 year, get the name
And
out
then
there.
their fifth-year quarterback leaves in the trash again.
Yeah, yeah. So they're due for a regression next year, but that doesn't matter. We're talking about 2024. But I like Iowa State. I like BYU. Like the Cougs is soak it in. That being undefeated in the Big 12 so far. But I do think like the Big 12, they might do like the ACC and SEC and call down to the reps to make sure their favorite teams make it to the conference championship game.
That
And
seems more likely than any other option.
yeah, so with that said, Colorado sitting there, not like you talked about a little bit ago. They don't have the most difficult schedule in the world. I mean, Cincinnati, they're up and down. I have a soft spot for Cincinnati because again, my colleague's son is their long snapper in Cincinnati, which the other day, he snapped the ball, they punted, he got a tackle, and he should have got a forced fumble and a recovery, but they said that he was down before
Oh,
it didn't review it. clearly was fumble and recovery by him. He got that taken away from him.
But that was in Iowa State, wasn't it? Or did Iowa State play
Uh,
UCF last week?
it was UCF. It was the UCF game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was tough. Yeah, because anyway. But I do think that the Big 12 is going to do their Buffalo Wild Wings impression and like call it down and make a change and force us to see BYU and Colorado.
Colorado, Colorado and BYU in that game would be absolutely wild because you have, the
Fun.
pious Mormons versus whatever the hell Dion has going on, where,
Yeah,
they're
I don't even know what to
flexing
call it.
Rolexes and cussing people out and then quoting Bible verses. I mean, it's just a wild experience.
Well, Dion's like a mega church pastor, like Cleflo Dollar or someone like that. I'd probably associate with that.
My biggest question is, has Dion told his congregation that Jesus told him that he needs a private jet to be able to spread the gospel, and his congregation donated enough money to get it for him in 24 hours?
If he hasn't, he needs to do that soon because
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
running out of
Creflo's
kids to
done
play
that.
for him. Yeah, he did, and he got it.
Yeah,
God bless. Shout out, God.
and then he, fun fact, one of the companies I used to work for, Creflo did not want to pay his life safety bills, and it got to a point where if we went to do work, they had to hand us a check while we were there because if they got billed, they wouldn't pay it.
You know what? That's not shocking at all. It's really not.
Absolutely not. We're going into something that is a little bit shocking. The Big Ten, the way it's played out so far. The not shocking part, Oregon leading the conference has already beaten Ohio State. I called that. I believe you called that at the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
And here's the shocking part. Indiana and Penn State are both undefeated.
Right.
Indiana has still not trailed for a single second in any football game this season. They are one of two teams, along with Army, that have trailed for 0 seconds of a football game.
Shit.
I
Wow.
Does not make sense.
No.
Nope. And then we have a tie for one conference loss with Illinois, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. Indiana does have some tough games left, ending the season with the defense of Michigan, the offense of Ohio State, and the spoiler makers in, what is it, East Lafayette or West Lafayette?
West Lafayette. Yeah.
West Lafayette against Purdue. Penn State really only has Ohio State left as a good quality opponent, even though Michigan State is 4-2.
Aiden Childs, not bad.
Not bad.
Not great, but not bad.
Yeah. Wisconsin has Penn State, Oregon, and Nebraska. And Ohio State has Nebraska this weekend, Penn State, Indiana, and Michigan to end the season. So I think the big question here, are we getting a rematch between Ohio State and Oregon?
Unfortunately, I do think that we are going to get that rematch of that really tough team in Columbus in Oregon. But I do think Oregon does beat them again. Hopefully, it's by a little bit more than a point or two, whatever it was a few weeks ago. But really, best case scenario, I really want Indiana to beat Ohio State in a few weeks and essentially do have a home game in Indianapolis playing Oregon. But I do think it's going to be Oregon and Ohio State with Oregon winning it in their first year in the Big Ten.
So I have to reluctantly agree with you on that. And my deciding factor was, where is that Indiana-Ohio State game being played? Sadly, it's in Columbus. Yeah, if it was in Indiana, it's gonna go purely off of a vibes pick and take Indiana in that one. But side note, Indiana's quarterback is out this week, so that could be potentially not good. Let's see who they play in this week. It's Washington at home.
Okay.
So we will see. We are going to get to the group of five before we get to the SEC, because the SEC, we've brought it up a couple of times over the last few weeks. It's one of the wildest conference races we've seen in the SEC in quite some time. But the group of five, we're talking about at least one team from a few different conferences here. As far as the American goes, Army and Navy are both undefeated. Liberty is undefeated in Conference USA with a stupid easy schedule. I said that before they were trailing Kennesaw State, so we will
Mhm.
see. Um, the Mountain West is between Boise and UNLV, both with one loss, but Boise's loss is to number one Oregon, and UNLV has a loss at Syracuse in overtime in what was truly a good game. I watched that a few weeks ago, Thursday night game. Um, and the Sun Belt's only one loss team is Louisiana, who lost to a two-loss Tulane team. Um, so I think the Sun Belt's kind of out of it, sadly,
Yeah.
because the Eagles have two losses already. So
They lost to Boise and then Ole Miss before they kind of unraveled. But Boise, you said this. Boise and UNLV play, I think, Friday night, I think, right?
oh, it's this week?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh shit, let's go.
Yeah, no, right?
I'm not used to typing on the computer. Normally everything I do is on the phone and it saves to the computer, so y'all gonna have to give me a second to pull up their schedule. It is Friday.
Hell
Oh
yeah, let's go.
shit. We got a Mountain West title game on Friday night. Sadly, it's at 10:30.
It's Friday night though.
Yeah, I'm just old though.
I
10:30. That means that bitch will be over at 1:30.
That is crazy. Yeah, that is late. Good Lord. Is it in Vegas?
I believe it is. Yes,
Okay.
it is in Vegas. Who's gonna win in Sin City? The people are asking.
The people are asking.
All right,
Hell yeah.
so we're gonna get it to our Group 5 playoff pick here in just a minute, but we're gonna go ahead and get into the SEC. So the SEC is led by LSU and Texas A&M, who play each other this week. We will have a clear leader in the SEC by Sunday. After A&M, after that, A&M ends the season at home against Texas. Really, their only tough game. LSU plays A&M, Bama, and Vandy. So even if LSU wins that game, more than likely we'll have one loss by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then we have five teams tied with one loss: Georgia, Tennessee, Mizzou, Texas, and Vandy. Georgia plays Tennessee and Ole Miss and has already beaten Texas for that tiebreaker. Tennessee plays Georgia and Vanderbilt. Mizzou plays Bama, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas.
Yeah, they're
And
out.
I've listed all those games for Mizzou because they've looked beatable in all but two games they've played this year.
Yeah.
Texas plays at Vandy, at Arkansas, and against A&M. And Vandy has Texas, South Carolina, LSU, and A&M. So who the hell is
Ooh.
playing in Atlanta? Like nobody has an easy road.
Yeah, really, they're the only teams that truly control their own destiny are um I guess really Texas, well, LSU and A&M right now, but that changes after this Saturday. So I'm gonna go with Georgia punching its ticket to Atlanta. Surprise, surprise. Uh, I think they've proven all the doubters wrong, including us, and played really well last week, and hopefully they can continue that. Because really those games that we were scared about earlier on against Tennessee and then Ole Miss don't look nearly as scary as they did in the preseason.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, our anxiety level should go down, but and again, it is Georgia football, so probably not. But do think Georgia goes to Atlanta, and I think the '07 type ish that's happening this year is going to continue. And I think A&M is going to beat Texas in College Station and punch their ticket to play the Dogs in Atlanta. So we're going to get yet another A&M Georgia game in the state of Georgia and not in College Station.
All right. So do you have A&M beating LSU this weekend, or do you have LSU
I
winning that
think
game and then losing to another one or two teams?
I think I think where's the A&M game? Oh, they play. Wait, where's the A&M game at? Is it in Baton Rouge?
Let me check.
All right, check real quick. Um,
It is in College Station.
yeah, give me the Aggies. At
Whew.
least right now. It doesn't feel great, but I am going to go with that. They have been playing really well for Mike Elko. And they're going to beat Texas. I'm calling that right now. I called it in the preseason. I'm calling that right now. So that's going to be a quality win for them as well. But uh, again, LSU schedule. I mean, with A&M, Bama, and Vandy, and they do play Oklahoma as well. So that's going to be tough for them, even though Oklahoma's not great right now. But I have more confidence in A&M than I do at LSU at this point. And Missouri is definitely out of it. They're not that schedule that you said with Bama, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. Mizzou might go 1-3.
Yeah, that's a real tough schedule, especially with them doing the $1 million man treatment to Brady Cook last week to get him back on the field.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough. Um, you convinced me. Be honest.
Okay.
I'm a follow your lead. Go Georgia A&M. The game being in College Station this weekend is a huge factor.
Hmm.
But also, what is the one thing you can guarantee Texas A&M is going to do on defense? That's beat the hell out of the quarterback.
Hmm.
And we saw how that went for Texas last weekend.
Yeah.
That game being also in College Station.
Hmm.
Just, man, I don't. Unless Texas changes quite a bit on how they do things offensively, I don't know how they're going to win that game.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm with you. You
Hell
talked
yeah.
me
Let's
into
go.
it.
Let's go giggle them. Whatever that their
Whatever
male
the
cheerleader
cult over there
guys.
does.
Yeah. Whatever they do. Drinking the Kool-Aid, wearing their stupid rings, whatever it is.
A yell leader thing, where are they going to do that in Atlanta if they finally make it to a conference title game? Are they going to do it in Centennial Olympic Park and all get robbed?
I was gonna say, I'm sure Bankhead or something like that would be wonderful. The West Side, go to the West Side, go for it.
Hell yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into our 12 team playoff predictions. We've got mine, Mike's, and Caleb sent us his. Um, so mine, I've got Oregon at number one because I think they finished the season undefeated, 13-0 after winning their conference title game. Two, I have Georgia, um, just because I think they're gonna finish it out strong. BYU is who I have at number three. I think they're the Big 12
Ooh.
champion. I think they go undefeated and still don't get the number two seed because the Big 12 is disrespected.
Hmm.
Clemson, I've got them at one loss as conference champion, so they're the number four seed. At five, I swapped it. It's now Texas A&M. I did have Texas, but I've got
Oh,
A&M.
okay.
Six seed, I have Ohio State just because they're going to have two losses. It will be both to number one Oregon, which is why they're going to be the highest rated two-loss team. I do have Indiana at seven, and that's because I think the game they lose for the rest of the season is to Ohio State as long as the quarterback gets back healthy. Um, and you can't in the playoff poll at the end of the season have Indiana, who lost to Ohio State, under or over Ohio State, considering Ohio State's second loss was conference title game. At number eight, I have Kansas State. I think the next game they lose is in Dallas for the Big 12 championship belt. Um, Sadly, at number nine, I do have Notre Dame, which is gross considering they lost to a Group of Five team and their schedule is one of the easiest in college football.
Wait, who's the group of five team? Are you talking about USC or are you talking about Northern Illinois?
Yes, so too. Well, they beat USC.
Oh, duh. Yeah. Sorry. It felt like I don't know.
Um,
I'm thinking.
At number 10, I do have Miami because I think they do go undefeated until losing to Clemson, but I think they get beat down by Clemson, which is why they dropped to 10. At 11, I have LSU. Um, I think they finished the season with one loss, which is very impressive with the schedule they've had. And then at 12, I've got Boise State. I think Oregon's going to be the only game they lose. I could eat crow literally in 36 hours, or
Right.
I guess 70. I don't know, 48, 48.
Let's just
Yeah, something like
yeah,
that.
about 40. Yeah, sure. Yeah, about
Yeah,
that.
I don't
Russ.
know. We're not mathologists. But I think Boise State's only loss is number one Oregon. They win the Mountain West. But that's my top 12 as of right now.
Hmm. I do gotta say picking a 12-team playoff is so much harder than picking a 14 playoff.
Oh, it's so difficult.
I screwed up while you were talking about the SEC teams a little bit ago. I had to go back in there and change one of my picks because I totally forgot Ohio State in there. Uh, I
You could
mean,
have left them.
hopefully
It'd
I
be
could
fine.
have. I could have. Um, that would have been tough to leave out the Big Ten runner-up and then have like Indiana and another team in there. So I decided against that. But my number one team is going to be Georgia, SEC champs. That win against Texas, and then eventually A&M, which at that point probably is a top 5, 6 team if they kind of run the table like we think they're going to, like we talked about. So Georgia at 1 as SEC champ. 2, I got Oregon, undefeated Big Ten champ. Definitely an argument one way or another. Between them and Georgia. I wouldn't trip if Georgia was number 2 and Oregon was 1. I don't care. Clemson, I got at number 3 being the ACC champ. 11-1, or I guess 12-1 in the season after they won the ACC. Only loss being to my number 1 team in the country in Georgia. It got so much better throughout the year. So Clemson at 3. 4, like you, I do have BYU winning the Big 12, going undefeated, getting that 4th spot as the 4th best conference champion in the country. 5, I do have Texas A&M. Again, their only loss being to my number 1 team in the country in Georgia. So they're going to get to host a playoff game at Kyle Field. It's going to be dope for them.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Again, those yellow leaders won't know what to do at that point. Whoever, I guess, we playing Boise.
I was about to say Boise with Ashton Jeanty trying to get.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, electric.
Yeah. So yeah, I have A&M at 5. Miami, I have at number 6. Again, their only loss coming to Clemson. I don't feel good about that. Really was not sure where to put Miami, but I'm gonna slot them in at 6. Ohio State being a 2-loss team, both losses coming to Oregon. I have them at 7 after initially leaving them out. 8, I have Texas. Losses coming to A&M and Georgia. Still pretty good. LSU would have at 9, which is going to be kind of controversial because they're loss against USC and then losing against A&M will definitely hurt them there. 10, just like you said, gross. I do have Notre Dame in there. You're not going to leave Notre Dame out if they're a 1-loss team. Although that may change as they play Navy. So in I think MetLife, I think they play this Saturday.
God, dude, we got a lot to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I have not started shit on that outline, so I'm going to be busy.
That's like one of I think 3 or 4 ranked on ranked games is Navy and Notre Dame. Go figure.
I'm not allowing myself to cheer for either side in that game because I'm going to feel gross about both.
Understandable. But yeah, Notre Dame at 10. 11, I do have Penn State, which also feels gross, but arguably for me more gross than Notre Dame. But again, I don't know. I'm still not impressed with Penn State. They got away with not playing really anybody except I think Ohio State later.
I think the reason that I have Penn State so far down is because I truly I don't have Penn State in my top 12. I think it's because Ohio State smacks them so bad that they are exposed for being a bad team that has just gotten extremely lucky with the schedule.
Yeah, they arguably benefited the most out of losing divisions in the Big Ten for sure. But yeah, I do have Penn State in there, and then 12, I do have Boise. Yeah, I really wanted that game, that first game of the season, Georgia Southern and Boise. That could have Georgia Southern could be in Boise's spot right now, but
week 1 playoff eliminator, is that what you're talking about?
In Statesboro as God intended.
It really is.
Boise's number 12. So we have a lot of similarities, but there's one notable team that all 3 of us left out. We'll get into that afterward.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go through Caleb's real quick, and he was kind enough to send us an explanation. Caleb has Georgia at number 1, SEC champion, beating LSU in, as we talked about before, the most commonly played SEC championship game since they instituted it. He has Ohio State, Big Ten champion, beating Oregon in that game.
Ew.
Yep,
Hell,
I
man.
agree. It's blasphemous, if you ask me,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Number 3, he's got Clemson, ACC champion, beating Miami. Number 4, BYU, Big 12 champs, beating Kansas State. Number 5, he has Oregon. Only loss is the Big Ten title. 6, he has Penn State. Only loss to Ohio. 7, Miami. Only losses in the ACC title game. He's got Boise at number 8.
Ooh, I'm
Winning
here
the
for
Mountain
that.
West, going undefeated with the exception of that Oregon game. Um, then he has number 9, LSU, 2 losses, 1 to USC, 1 to Georgia. 10, he has Texas, 2 losses, Georgia and A&M.
There we go.
At number 11, he has Notre Dame, just like us, gross, 1 loss to NIU. And at 12, he has Indiana with 1 blowout loss to Ohio State, keeping them out of that title game.
I really want Indiana in there. I really wanted them in there instead of like Penn State or somebody like that. But I just if they do get blown out by Ohio State, like we all kind of think that's going to happen, they really haven't played anybody. So it's tough. Somebody that doesn't have a track record of being good uh, and not really playing anybody is going to hurt them, I think. But
And to be fair to us, if this is all wildly wrong, they change up the playoff committee each and every year, and the first playoff poll will come out Tuesday the 5th. So the most important thing you're going to do on Tuesday the 5th is watch that playoff prediction show or the playoff poll show. Um,
yeah,
and
the
actually,
only poll that matters.
I probably will get on a soapbox a little bit later about that, but we'll get there if we get there. Um, all right, so now we've gone through each of our top 12s for the final ranking. Getting into Georgia's last 5 opponents, I did my best to actually keep this short because I thought we would already be at an hour by now. Um, Once again, I typed most of this out on my phone, and it makes it look significantly longer than it does on a computer. That's what she said. Um, so like I said, I thought we were going to be going for an hour already, but Georgia's last 5 opponents, I have Florida, obviously 4-3 overall, 2-2 in conference. The biggest thing to me about Florida is their in-season evolution. They averaged 281 yards of offense and 18.5 points per game in their first 2 games against core 4 opponents. In their last 4, they're averaging 424.75 yards per game and 33.5 points per game. Florida has gotten better, and DJ Lagway can hurt you with both his arm and his legs. Their defense tries to play to the level of their competition, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
They look good against, well, I was going to say good teams, but the offenses their defense has played recently is Tennessee and Kentucky, and neither of those offenses have looked good. So
Right.
we don't really know much about their defense since their team started to get better, but their offense has changed dramatically over the last few weeks.
Florida should be 5-2 right now, and there should be a top 25 matchup against Georgia. Arguably, I mean 5-2
Billy
in that at this
Napier
point. Yeah.
having a weak constitution is the reason they're not 5-2.
Mm-hmm.
And if they'd have
Should have.
beat Tennessee, they'd damn sure be ranked.
Mm-hmm. I yeah, we talked about it before. That still drives me crazy, and I'm surprised that more Florida fans that I know are not upset about it. But
I
it is
think a
what it
lot
is.
of Florida fans have really just mailed it in on the season and are only barely paying attention unless they're going to games, which is why
Yeah.
our guest next week, Bobby, is so upset about the whole thing because he goes to games
Mm.
and he is there watching, and he's like, "This is not a bad team. Why do we
No.
keep losing?"
Yeah.
And it's coaches.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
All right, next team we're getting into, Ole Miss. So the Rebels have been the opposite of Florida this year. They started hot and have cooled down quite a bit. Ole Miss has a defense this year, only allowing 289.4 yards per game and second in scoring defense at 10.57 points per game. The big issue this year with Ole Miss is their ability to protect the quarterback. They're allowing 17 sacks so far this season.
Yeah.
And Lane is struggling with the same thing that every portal heavy team does, building an offensive line. It seems to be the only group that you cannot build through the portal, and sacks are the primary reason that Ole Miss lost to both Kentucky and LSU, allowing 4 sacks against Kentucky and 6 against LSU.
Yeah, that's inexcusable. Definitely to lose to Kentucky, although they've been scrappy outside of the that Florida game. But yeah, if it, like you were saying with the like not being able to build up the offensive line through the transfer portal, if you're a good offensive lineman, you're going to get paid at the school that you're at. Like they're not going to let you. They're not going to let you go. Like that's the one that they're. I mean,
unless you're like the 4th-string guy as a sophomore, you're probably staying where you are.
Yeah, it's I very, very difficult to do. And if you are out there and you're talented, you probably have a character flaw or something that is a giant red flag. But
yep.
I don't know, because I really can you think of one big name like offensive line transfer like in this portal era, not named Cade Mays? Not that I spent a lot of time thinking about offensive linemen that transfer,
so I cannot think of his name. He's the guy that transferred from Washington to Alabama this year, playing at center. And to be fair, he followed his head coach, so it's a different situation there.
Yeah.
But he's really the only guy that I can think of that has definitely improved the team he's on and was a starter at one place and transferred to another, because even Caden Proctor.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, Mike. Well, he technically is a transfer. Technically is a transfer, but has he really helped that offensive line very much? They've struggled too.
Yeah, help as far as the center goes, and I cannot remember his name. It's driving me nuts right now. It cannot be worse than what they had at center last year.
Right.
Because he's getting the ball to the quarterback. And
yeah, that's honestly, not the problem.
Right. Like that. If you can get the ball to the quarterback, you're better than who Bama had last year at center. So it's an improvement.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on to Tennessee. Speaking of Cade Mays and Nine Fingers, we have spoken a lot about Tennessee's drop in offense, so I'll quantify it pretty quickly here. Before SEC play started, Tennessee's offense was averaging 639.3 yards per game and 63.6 points per game. And defensively, they were allowing 160.6 yards per game and 4.3 points per game. That was an absolutely elite margin between the offense and defense. Yeah. The problem is, since conference play has started, the offense is averaging 349.25 points or yards per game and 21.5 points per game. They're allowing 332.75 yards per game and 17 points per game. What that tells me defensively is that they're stopping teams in the red zone and getting turnovers. And then they're moving the ball without being able to score themselves. Wildly enough, Tennessee's worst defensive performance was against Arkansas.
Yeah.
Which, shout out to Sam.
Brace the hog.
But based on the numbers, they're having a difficult time stopping the run and pass when they don't know what is coming. Like late in the Alabama game, they knew Alabama had to pass the ball. They did well against that. Late in the game against Florida, they knew they were going to have to pass the ball, did well against that. If it is a short yardage situation, they're able to stop the run for the most part, unless you're named Arkansas. Yeah. So if Tennessee knows what you're about to do, they have the guys on defense to stop it. But if you have a balanced offense where you use the same formations to do different things, you can fool this defense and get yards and points. Looking into this, I do think that game on November 16th is going to be closer and low scoring, though. I'm real interested to see what the over-under is for that one when it comes out.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like Nico's hit a bit of a. I know he's a redshirt freshman. He started, a game last year, but seems like he's hit like kind of like a freshman wall. Not too, completely sure of himself or anything like that. I mean, he's still fine. I mean, just beat Bama, a couple days ago. But
Dylan Sampson beat Bama with Nico handing the ball to.
Yeah. I mean, Nico was not the reason why they won that game by any means, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, that defense is pretty much the reason why they're kind of at where they're at right now. But again, not nearly as scary right now as it was, say, like you said, like 5, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, when they had that game against NC State, when NC State was still ranked and thought to be a good team, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah, not the 13th best team in the ACC.
Yeah, that's man. Can we get a game between NC State and Florida State?
Ooh, so okay, I don't know if you know this. Quick tangent. So somebody had said that the guy that promised to eat the dog poop ate the dog poop, but that turned out to be false, right? Like he did not eat the dog poop. They're
So
still
I have no
cursed.
idea. I quit following that saga.
Yeah, I think he fake ate it or somebody else did. I can't remember, but the curse is still on.
Curse is still on. Sadly, we do not get an NC State and Florida State game this year. Um,
Yeah.
just and honestly, if we even got it in like week 12, would Mike Norvell still be the head coach?
Ooh.
Like
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
we never found somebody from Florida State to talk to, but we would have to if he gets fired after
Yeah.
last year. Like we would have to.
I mean, what are the chances you think Mike Norvell actually gets fired? I mean, they were unconquered last year. They went undefeated last year,
But
right?
they're currently 1-6.
Yeah, that's a tough fall off. Who again, going back to it, who would have thought that a team of mercenaries,
A team of temp or a temp agency with a victim mentality would suck.
yeah, who would have
Who
thought?
who'd have thought?
Just everybody that's ever been on here, right?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
We were told by a few people to believe in Florida State, and we were like, we'll see, and we have seen.
we done seen it. Yep.
And I promise you that that person I will be seeing in a couple of weeks, and I will absolutely bring that up.
I got a picture with Mike Norvell's cardboard cutout at a gas station in Tallahassee. I'm surprised that hasn't been torn down yet.
Oh, side note, even another one. I'm going to Gainesville this weekend.
Ew.
I have some very good friends who recently moved there because they got a job with the university where they're making stupid money. About to have a baby, so this is their baby shower. We are
Hmm.
staying not in Gainesville. And every
Okay.
other time we've driven through Gainesville, we make sure we have gas before we get close because we do not support their economy. So we will spend $0 in Gainesville because I refuse to support their economy.
I always get gas in Kingsland when we drive down to Florida for the same reason.
Yeah, we normally do, but we'll be leaving after Kelsey gets off on Friday, so I have no idea what our plan is.
Mm.
Speaking of no idea what a plan is, UMass. And on the one bullet I have is if Mizzou did that to them in Massachusetts, we don't need to talk about it.
No, no. Leave it at that.
I mean, there was a scam article yesterday about a UMass wide receiver transferring to Georgia in the middle of the season. That that's not a
Hmm.
thing. So obviously it's a
Right,
scam article, but
right.
like that's how bad it is for the Minutemen. Sadly, this is not 1776 for them.
Yeah, Missy Elliott ain't walking through that door.
All right, last team we're talking about, Georgia Tech. They're an offense completely dependent on the run game. The issue is they need a quarterback who has the ability to pass the ball as well and pass on the move outside of the pocket. And Haynes King being out for now, potentially not at 100% when he comes back. The numbers won't tell you the full story of their current team. Brett Pryon, something like that, is their backup guy. He attempted, I want to say 2 or 3 passes in their game last week after, or no, in the game against UNC after Haynes King went down and had a 0% completion percentage. Against the
That's
same
not good.
UNC defense that James Madison put up 70 on. So that tells you about the quality of quarterback play that they're going to get without Haynes King in there. But in the game Haynes King was injured in, before he left the game, he had 127 passing yards and 107 rushing yards. Defensively, they stop the run well, but struggle to stop an offense that can run and pass the ball. Um, this is going to piss off a lot of Georgia fans. I hope they're healthier when that Black Friday game comes because it'll be more fun. But as of
Yeah.
right now, the Rambling Wreck is just a wreck without Haynes
Yeah.
King.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. I love the fact that this is on Black Friday. It's not going
And
to get lost in the shuffle
yeah,
night game. It's gonna be nice. This is what it should have been for a while now. And how do you feel about Georgia Tech and or the game next year being played at Mercedes-Benz? I know that's a Tech thing that they play one home game a year at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but they're choosing to do it next year against Georgia. But how do you feel about that?
I don't necessarily have an issue with it. I know it'll be odd. I know it'll be different. My only potential issue is that it is an artificial surface where a lot of injuries happen, with that being the last week of the year.
Yeah,
Um, I it's one of those things where I just hope Georgia can get up to it. Like next year, I don't want this to be a game. Next
right.
year, I want Georgia to beat the fuck out of them in 2 quarters, and then start shuffling in guys to get them reps and hopefully not get starters hurt. Is really
Yeah.
my thing.
Mhm.
What about
Just a
you?
quick, just a quick, just a quick update. Kennesaw State and Liberty are tied at 14. They're about to start the second half.
I am gonna go put it on the television when we're done in here. Um, but that's gonna do it for the mid-season progress report, or I don't know. I guess
Mid
that's what we're calling it because we didn't come up with something better.
midterms.
Midterms. If you guys
Yeah,
have a better name for it, let us know. You know, we're we're open to suggestions, comments, concerns, shut ups, fuck yous. Tell us what you think. Um, but find us on social media if you haven't already. Nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at FinderPod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You will find us there. Share the show with a friend. If you haven't, if you don't know any Georgia fans, get better friends. I
right.
just is what
Yeah,
it is.
what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but as always, guys, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
Been a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.